Namaste and welcome back to another episode of The Sapient. Today we have another guest. So, welcome, Jim.
Glad to be here.
How are you doing today?
I'm well, thanks. It's getting a little chilly. I just settling into winter down out here in the East Coast. Just you know, rolling with it.
And you have a book on Amazon, right?
I do, yeah,
For duty and humanity.
yes.
So, what's that about and where did you draw the inspiration for that?
Well, I've been a private investigator for most of my adult career, and I've done. Uh, I've over 25 years. I've been doing it, and the money's no good. The hours are ridiculous, but you really get some good stories along the way. And during COVID, I cobbled together some more interesting things I've done, and I put it around a narrative, and I shipped it around, and there's somebody's like, oh, you might have something here. So I came up with a narrative to wrap all the stories around it, and it seems to be doing okay. It's well received, and just shamelessly self promoting it.
hmm Yeah, you know, because you are in, let's say, an adventurous, kind of industry that you work in,
Yeah.
where it's like uncertainty most of the time, I think.
Yes.
um what was your first kind of impression when you wanted to start this book? Was that okay, here is a plot and this is what I'm going to do, or was it let me start writing and see what happens?
Yeah, well, over the years I put down some of the more crazier things I've done. I put pen to paper on it because I didn't want to forget it. I wanted to keep it in the moment. And after about 15, 20 stories came in, I was like, okay, um, how do I put this together so somebody could, um, put it together in a way that would fit in the narrative structure of a book. So I came up with, a purely fictitious story, but I plopped in the actual things I've done are, excerpts in the book, and I just plop them down as focal points. And yeah, it's over the years you do some. I've done some weird stuff. Some funny, some not so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Some hilarious, some heartbreaking. It's
Mm-hmm.
across the board.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's such a unique job, I would say. It's not even a job, I would say. It's just an experience.
Yes, I would put it that. Yeah, that's a fair way to do it.
Because even in India, private investigators are um, differently viewed, let's say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not. Yeah, they have it's an interesting field. I stay away from most of the distasteful things like divorce cases and personal injury and following people around. I tend to lean towards most of my most of my work is doing background checks and um, forensic investigations. Pre-employment screening
Hmm.
if you're going into business with somebody. But if I'm asked, if the right people ask, I'll jump out and sit in my car and for the right price. But I still do that, but I try not to.
Yeah, yeah, because there is certain level of enigma around your job that people are
Yes.
and of course you must have a million people that would ask you what was your best experience.
No.
You know.
Yeah. There's a lot. Mostly the best experience I get is finding. I find the truth out about people, and if people have a hunch about somebody, it's
Mm-hmm.
mostly women who have that sense that
Mm-hmm.
something's not right, and they reach out to me to confirm it. And if and it's not limited to women, but they have an extra sense that something's not right. But if somebody has this just doesn't sound right to me, and then they hire me and I prove it. Or sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, they're you were wrong on that. But most of the times, if I save people from being swindled, that's the most satisfaction I get. Where yes, these people are
Hmm.
trying to scam you and stop it immediately, but sometimes
Yeah.
they don't believe me and they go ahead with
Hmm.
it anyway, and there's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah, it's the same story of like horse and the water, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
you could give them all the facts and still,
yeah.
um, you know.
Well, yeah, that's happened to me. Several people who are getting scammed by these online romance things, and
Hmm.
next thing you know, they're sending them like $20,000, and I'm
Oh my
begging
God.
them not to, but they go ahead and do it anyway because
Hmm.
he sent flowers and told me he loved me, and it's that, and there's nothing I could do about that because if they're gonna, I, yeah, it was madness a
Yeah.
couple of times. You have all the information, but they refuse to listen. I just have to walk away. Say good luck to you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of like sad and also like weird, I would say.
Yes.
Because you would say like I am giving you all the facts you need to
Hmm.
make these decisions, but yet you're sticking to your gut feeling. Like,
Yeah, absolutely,
um,
absolutely.
it's like one of those, like sacred Christians who don't believe in medical treatments.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
like, we're gonna pray for it,
yeah. No
and
blood
it
transfusions for me, thanks. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I've also done several adoption cases where I found somebody's birth parents, or you know, it's mostly looking for their birth parents, and
Mm-hmm.
I've with good success doing that, but I can't. I can lead you to the curtain. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why, what's going to be on the other side, what kind of person that
Yeah.
is. Sometimes it's good that they gave you up for adoption. These people are just,
Mm-hmm.
they're wrecks, they're
Yeah.
they're train wrecks. So
Mm-hmm.
they they knew it, and they handed you to somebody who would take you up and give you a good environment to grow up
Mm-hmm.
in you know
Yeah.
and
Yeah, because
sometimes, yeah, they thank me
yeah.
for that.
Yeah, because I bet you must be, you must have seen some real heartbreaking things, right? When you
Yeah,
when you walk on a path, or let's say on a hunt that you don't know what might be
yeah,
happening, on the
yeah.
other side.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a story. This actually happened. A man called me up. He reached out to hire me. He's like, I don't have much time left. I got a divorce about 30 years ago, and my wife poisoned my children against me. And I just want to. I said, oh boy, So I did find a daughter, and I reached out
Mm-hmm.
to her. And I'm not giving. I don't never give out any information without their consent.
Mm-hmm.
And she reached out to me, and then she's like, let me tell you about this guy. And then he was the one who was poisoning the, and she's like, and I never want to have anything to do with him, but she said, yeah, go ahead, give him my number, I want to tell him. And
Mm-hmm.
okay, here and I never followed up on that, and because it's none of my business, I just
Mm-hmm.
lead you to the
Yeah.
door. But I was really curious to see how that went, but again, it's none of my business. So
Yeah, it's also interesting, Jim, that in your particular profession, ethics is like so confusing, right? Like, and it's also so hard sometimes, I
yeah,
would guess.
yeah. Well, it can be, but sometimes the information's right there. Sometimes you got to dig, because some
Mm-hmm.
people are good at hiding their past.
Mm-hmm.
If if you're hiring a contractor to do $500,000 worth of work on your house, you want to know what they're all about. And contractors are, that is my specialty, because some of these guys
Mm-hmm.
are the worst of the worst. But some of them are on the up and up, but you just got to pick and choose. You got to do your homework on that, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why they hire me, to do the homework.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I know where to look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course, because you have been doing it for so long,
Yeah,
that you know because
exactly.
often I see like this on, and of course I'm not American by any chance. My
Uh-huh.
audience knows it. I have never set a foot on American soil. um but I'm very American in many ways.
Yeah, I
I'm
got
very
you.
lean towards uh,
Hmm.
understanding people internationally.
Hmm.
um you know and I see on YouTube that, few people are like privacy investigators or PIs. They are on hire for like $5, $10 per hour.
Oh boy.
um, and I'm like, that's less than what a
Yeah,
person would
yeah,
earn like
yeah.
in a McDonald's job.
Yeah, I charge considerably more than that.
I mean, you should, because
Yeah.
you're doing something that, first of all, not many people have the balls to do it, and second of all, the biggest is they do not have the knowledge or the courage to do it.
Yeah, yeah. You get a feel for things, you know. You get a feel for people. You know, I spent many years as a bartender, so I know how to read people, and that's coming. It's a big help. Yeah,
Hmm.
when you walk into a situation, you can read a room pretty well, and
Yeah.
I've relied on that, and also, I've been in this several tricky situations, but I can also talk my way out of a lot of things. I can talk my way into a room. I can talk my way out of a room, and that's what I'd rather do.
Yeah. Yeah. I assume, like, you must be like extremely skillful, right? Because like a lot of people would not even like be able to pull off, let's say, like 5% of what you're able to pull off in these situations.
I I agree with that for the most part, but if you have it in you, it's just having an inquisitive nature about things, and asking, know what questions to ask, and you know how to read a person, how to deal with
Hmm.
different situations.
Yeah. So, first of all, I don't want to like catch you off guard, but of course, you might know OSINT, right?
I'm sorry, what?
OSINT, OSINT.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Off. I've dealt with that before. It's
Hmm.
something. It's a office. What is it?
I'll just let you know because I am dumber than you. I absolutely don't know shit.
Yeah.
It's like open source intelligence,
Oh, open source. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm sorry.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
I hope that's correct because that's what I remember it as.
yeah, 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 yeah. I it's I've haven't. I'm not too familiar with that, but
Hmm.
I just go to the different database, and I mean, what I do is open source intelligence, because
Hmm.
I have numerous databases.
Hmm.
People call it different things, but I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's
Yeah, because now there is this huge rise in OSINT, and
hmm
people are building this community of OSINT where like multiple people come and figure out a lot of things.
hmm
And Jim, I was absolutely surprised because I am an active user in 4chan and Reddit and all these places,
uh-huh.
because I just like danger.
Yeah, yeah,
I just like to be the audience of it, and I see this because of conflict that's going on in Israel and Palestine.
yeah,
I see a lot of people figuring a lot of shit out,
yeah.
just from just from few images or references, let's say.
hmm Yeah. My main uh I check records hard, instead of I know what you're talking about. You go to these different rooms where opinions are, and information is um you know freely
Hmm.
brokered or just handed out, but I need to get like physical, actual concrete records.
Hmm.
um I do, if I'm doing uh a background check, you want to find out where, if they're, where their leanings, and if they're spewing out, ridiculous statements. That's when you go to that, and
Hmm.
where they're one way or the other. You could be a great guy, and then you go to their Facebook or Instagram page, and you just see some really ridiculous stuff. You got to
Hmm.
question their decision making skills,
Yeah.
and whether, the fact that they threw it out there tells you a lot about the person too.
Yes. Yeah,
So
because Jim, by profession, I'm a digital marketer. So
okay.
I deal with social media and websites and everything. And I often like wonder like how fucking dumb people would be to post shit that they post. And whenever I ask them like, why did you do this? And their
Yeah.
prime answer would be like, because it's not easy to find me on Instagram or Facebook. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
dude, you're like half a Google search away.
yeah, 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 yeah. And you see the time that they posted it. If they just got back from the bars
Yeah.
and they're just in a stream of consciousness, that's oh, it was at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I get it.
Hmm. Yeah, because I used to take like this online safety classes here in India for free, just
Uh-huh.
for especially for women, like how to protect themselves from people tracking them and all these things on social
Sure.
media,
Yeah.
because like especially women are like notorious in uploading stories and giving like quick
Yeah.
locations. So I always used to say, if you're traveling alone, let's say, just live like just live like you're living 24 hours away. For example,
Yeah.
today you went to a bar, post about it tomorrow. And
Yeah.
tomorrow if you go to a church, post about it day after tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
It's
smallest things that can you can do to protect yourself.
sure.
um
Sure.
and Jim, the interesting thing would be they'd ask me a question like, why should I do that?
Yeah.
And I was like, because you are literally giving
Yeah.
typing in the location on Instagram,
Yeah.
that if you
Yeah.
can just tap it and see where you are.
And if you announce you're leaving your house for 10 days, you're
Yes.
just leaving it open for. I have a lot of people. They reach out to me. In the United States, you used to be able to run license plates with no
Mm-hmm.
problem,
Mm-hmm.
but they clamped down on that because people were getting murdered, and that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Yeah.
it's it started with the police. Oh, that girl's cute. I'm just going to run her plate. But
Damn.
now it's like I could run a plate, and people ask me to do it. I'm like, why?
Mm.
Oh well, they, no,
Yeah.
and you get guys. Oh, I want to find an old girlfriend of mine. I'm like, I try not to do that, but if I trust the person, but every time I've done that, it's normally an acquaintance. I just want to see how she's doing, and I get that. And they never reach out to her. They just end up crumpling it up and not going any further because then they realize this is kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's almost like a stalker behavior.
Well, yeah, yeah, and I just want to know where they live. No, I'm not going to do
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah. I mean, world's like very messed up place, I think.
I'm sorry, what?
World is a very messed up
Oh,
place.
yes, yes, yes. Especially
Um,
now, it's instant communication.
yeah.
And if you want to, you can stalk their Facebook page or whatever. The younger generation is increasingly off of that.
Yeah.
It's but it's a good tracking tool.
Mm-hmm.
That if for what I do, if they're people they're looking to hire somebody, and
Mm-hmm.
you can post some goofy stuff, but if it
Yeah.
shows you're saying I this is how I think, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's testament to your decision making skills. You shouldn't be putting it out. You can say it to somebody next to it in a bar, but if
Mm-hmm.
you post it on Facebook,
Yes. Yes.
this Hitler guy
Um,
was okay. Okay, all right. If you post that on Facebook, it's
yeah.
it's going to be frowned upon.
Yes. Jim, once I was in the hiring process of someone. And like I was just looking up the guy, like like what he is on Facebook and Instagram. And the guy was raising his right hand in a certain angle, if you understand what I
Oh,
mean.
I understand. I understand. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I don't want you in my office. It's too
And
like
they
dangerous for me.
and they took a picture of it. That's
Yeah.
the
And they like brag about it.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's
And this idiot like had that on his wallpaper or like profile picture.
Jesus.
I was like, you are dumb, dude. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't want. We're just gonna end this right here, and
yeah,
call it a day.
yeah, that's all. Like I don't want to dig down, because I know if I even like look at like top 5 posts, I'll be in trouble,
Hmm.
because it was messed up.
Yeah,
Yeah, but unfortunately, in India, like private investigators are not like that easily accessible.
yeah. Well, it's in the states. I'm the only one who I mean I know some other guys who do what I do, but
Hmm.
it's rare.
Yeah.
And people always I'm kind of a novelty because people are, oh, can you do this? Can you do this? I'll do it, for a friend. I'll do do a quick check for a friend or something. But
Mm-hmm.
and I'll do some work for somebody, get a job well done, and never hear from them again. Sometimes the people
Mm-hmm.
call me back up, and sometimes the person that hires me is insane
Yeah.
too. Because
Mm-hmm.
they like the idea of having a private investigator working for them,
Mm-hmm.
and when you realize that that person, is there's times when I'm like, doesn't sound right, so I give a very low price, an initially low price, so I can just walk away because
Mm-hmm.
it's just not worth it. And if I
Yeah.
charge them too much, I'd feel guilty about it, and
Mm-hmm.
so I just give a low ball price, so you can just, okay, we're done here. I'm washing my hands of it. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
you get to deal with a lot of paranoid people. My
Yeah.
husband, my refrigerator's bugged. My house is bugged.
Mm-hmm.
And then you give them a price that scares them all. Not scares them off, but a price that, okay, it's going to be $3,000 to do this. It's like, well, I
Mm-hmm.
can't afford that, and okay, so there's not much I can do about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Recently, I don't want to name out names, but one of my acquaintance, let's say, they found out their like office was bugged,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
and they were like scared shitless because they were like, oh my god, like I've
yeah,
spoken so many things that can get me cancelled.
yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Sometimes it's better if you know the office is bugged, then you roll with it anyway and just play into their hands. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, but like they are scared now because the person who has bugged, has still not come forward with any like blackmails or threats. So
Yeah.
they are like like, okay, who the fuck is this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we've we have a guy who does sweeps. I haven't talked to him in 10 years, but
Mm-hmm.
and he would do the test of the room. And
Mm-hmm.
there's devices you can buy for
Yeah.
relatively cheap that do the same thing, but
Mm-hmm.
increasingly it's everybody has a recorder on their phone anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Jim, that's what I learned from OSINT because I just looked into it and I'm very interested in these things. I looked into this and I found out like so much of fucking data is out there on a person,
oh yeah,
um, that a stalker could know more about a person than a person would know about themselves.
yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, that's the case.
Hmm.
That's you just got to be so guarded.
Yeah.
I just assume you're always being recorded. That's
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah. Because are you aware of Threads, the new app from Meta?
yeah,
If you just look at the permissions that it takes,
mm-hmm.
like from you to install,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
if a person even gave it thought about like 5 seconds, he would be scared.
yeah, 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 yeah.
It apparently reads your heartbeat and it monitors your eye movement, and
Mm-hmm.
many other things
Yeah,
along with that. And I'm like, yeah, just go ahead and like take a picture of that person naked because you know
yeah. Yeah. You got the facial recognition software. Yeah, everything. It's
yeah. And I'm like, yeah, what else is left of a human? I think in next like
yeah,
20 years people would be able to scan your soul and they could say
yeah, yeah,
this is your soul.
yeah. Well, I have no soul anymore. I gave that up a long time ago. But but
Hmm.
yeah, it's what people can get on you, and what you
Hmm.
freely give out. You.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, like it's totally free, right? Whatever information that they're getting,
Mm-hmm.
you're not even getting paid for that.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
And the most funny thing is right now in Europe, to use Facebook they have to pay for a monthly subscription.
yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, you're paying and giving your information away. That's it.
Oh,
That's it.
really? It's a monthly. Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's like I think it's like 18 euros or something.
Okay, wow.
And I was like, yeah, you're paying and giving your information away.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're paying for it. Wow, wow. That's
Yeah.
that's a head scratcher.
and they're getting kickbacks from the internet companies,
I'm sorry, what?
and
Oh,
Meta is like getting kickbacks from internet companies.
oh, sure. Yeah, they're selling your information.
Yeah, left and right, because I work on Meta ads every day,
Yeah,
and it's like genuinely scary how specifically you can target one person. Like right now, Jim, I could run an ad to target you,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
I don't even know you, right? Like if I just know your locality and who are you, I can
yeah.
do that. And I'm not even like the best digital marketers in the world, because I've been working at this for like 6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine what a person with like 15 years and 20 people team could do,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
and
yeah.
all this is for free. It's not
Yeah,
like
sure.
you had to pay money to even like come up with ads.
Mm-hmm.
You pay only when your ad runs.
Yeah. Oh,
um
yeah. And they know like how long you hover over something. If I'm scrolling through and I stop on an ad, I see, I
yeah.
see, something, even luggage or something like that.
Hmm.
And next thing you know, I log on. It'll be all about it's
Yeah, because the other day I was having conversation with one of my fellow colleagues, let's say, and I was talking about how people, like, how WhatsApp calls are there.
yeah.
And whenever there is an international call, let's say I had to call you on your cell phone, I'll call you on WhatsApp because it's free.
Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I would deliberately talk about, let's say, pants, jeans, or any pants for 20 minutes with you.
Uh-huh.
And the next thing, I would instantly go to Facebook, and the first three ads would be of jeans, pants, or
Yeah,
any
yeah,
pants. And I was talking to him. I was like, like, I definitely for sure know that they're transcripting your calls and picking up keywords.
yeah. Uh-huh.
And he was like, no, it's because of local relativity, that blah blah blah, he was saying. And at this point, I'm like pretty much convinced that is what is happening, like transcription of calls. um
Yeah.
which, if it is true, is way fucking scary.
Uh-huh.
um and I have had like 4 to 5 people do the same thing. Like they would call me and they would just talk about something, let's say one particular brand or one particular product,
Yeah.
and they would see ads of the same thing on Facebook or Instagram. And I tell them, imagine, like, Meta is one of the mostly like law abiding companies.
Yeah.
It's not TikTok.
Oh, yeah,
Imagine what TikTok
yeah.
can do.
Yeah, I stay away, try and stay away from it. But sometimes I can't help it because
Hmm.
the people, I have to see if what they're doing,
Hmm.
on behalf of my client. And
Hmm.
yeah, and I hate logging into that. But it's necessary evil.
Yeah, Jim, you want to know something? Like in India, TikTok is banned. Like we cannot use
That's
it.
not a bad thing. Yeah,
Because India and China are like frenemies.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
We are
yeah.
just like trading partners, but apart from that, like we hate each other.
Uh huh.
So back in like 2016, 17, when the COVID was early,
Yeah.
like they banned like 108 apps, mobile apps of Chinese government.
Wow. Yeah, it's an all full scale assault. Yeah, it's terrifying how much the data mining they do, and
Hmm. Yeah.
it's
Recently, there is this e-commerce brand from China,
yeah.
that's in news because they were stealing like fuckload of data from each mobile phones, and they were selling products at loss. um,
Oh,
and
okay.
like multiple government agencies and private agencies have found out that they were using every data that they could pull out of your phone.
Yeah,
They are pulling it out, and it's just like Chinese government doing it and
yeah,
again and again.
yeah. They did that in the states too. These
Hmm.
certain on one end of the political spectrum, they started selling these freedom phones,
Hmm.
and they're it's you can say whatever you want on it, and there's it's downloaded all these things. What they didn't tell them is that they're coming straight from China with so much tracking software, whatever they say, but they marketed it as the freedom phone. And
Hmm.
they just these people couldn't buy it fast enough.
Mhm.
Okay, you're just, I don't know what to tell you. You know,
Yeah, yeah. Um, do you know the story of John McAfee?
McAfee. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is the software guy. The
Yeah, the McAfee guy, right?
yeah,
The antivirus guy.
malware. Yeah, yeah.
hmm
I think I
You know,
still have it on my computer.
yeah.
He lost touch
He,
with reality, didn't he?
I don't think so because,
Oh, he-
when he was raided and everything,
yeah.
he gifted laptops to government secretaries and officers,
Okay.
which had like spyware.
Yeah.
He wanted to know like why are these guys coming after me,
Yeah.
but like
He
he couldn't figure out something like concrete.
didn't he go down to South America or something? He hid out down there for a while, didn't he?
Yes,
Uh,
yes, he did run from United States.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And also his kind of last tweet was also kind of cryptic, let's say.
yeah, 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 yeah. Something's going
Yeah.
on here. Yeah,
He said that if I die by suicide, I was whacked.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Something in those lines. And he, irony is, he did die by suicide, legally at least. Um,
Yeah,
you know, yeah,
gotcha.
because that's like say similar with all nations, I think. Um,
Yeah,
because if you look at it, like Putin, before he come to the power,
no, it was
um,
KGB. Yeah,
yeah, Putin was like he's like real, like as it gets, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, he knows. He's a class A manipulator. He knows, he
mhm.
knows what's going on.
Yeah, and also he was on the front line also, right? Like it was not like he
Yeah.
was an administrator or
Oh
like
no, no,
sitting
no,
in an
no. Yeah.
office. He did dirty shit and he admits to it, like he
Uh,
doesn't give a fuck.
yeah, he freely admits to it. Absolutely.
Yeah, and in a certain interview, he gave away his secret of how we used to eliminate people. Have you heard
Yeah.
of this story?
I don't believe so. No.
So Putin used to, whenever he wanted to eliminate an political enemy or whoever it is, right? Whose times were up, he would
Yeah.
he would um let's say poison their door handles and
No. Yeah. Yeah.
knobs,
Yeah. Yeah.
like simple things,
Yeah.
so that even if they like tested the trash and food and everywhere, they could not find
Yeah.
the said chemical.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. There's a
Yeah.
there.
So
And he is.
even
No.
even today, if you look at like Putin walk through a door, he will never open the door.
Yeah. I believe that. He
He has
knows.
someone else open the
Yeah.
door.
Yeah. 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 I
I
used
mean,
to know a guy. He was with the CIA. He goes, if you ever wanted the KGB to follow you, go to like an aerospace show in
mhm,
Europe and
mhm.
take like 200 pictures of the Soviet. Like if they had any piece of equipment, you take 200 pictures of it and walk away. It's like a guaranteed they would be following you for the rest of your stay.
Yes, yes, definitely. And you'd feel more safe, I think,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you're
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
constantly being monitored.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, one of our ex prime ministers was also like assassinated in Russia.
Really.
Yeah, back in the day.
Back in the
Even though Russia was a friend, like
hmm
they had to get rid of this one person because if he was successful, he could have brought like multiple defense deals between Russia and
uh-huh.
India.
Okay.
So he was like pushing arms and ammunition manufacturing in India with Russian technology. So Jim, I think by
Okay.
this point you know who who got rid of him.
Yeah, a doorknob guy.
Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's the kind of you know shady things that go on in the world.
yeah. Yes, yes.
Um, yeah,
It's a
yeah,
fun.
yeah. Recently, since Narendra Modi came to power, our own. version of CIA is performing pretty good, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They, before this they were like, like toothless tigers. Like, okay, what's he gonna do? Kind of question. Now they are like, I would say to their full capacity.
Uh-huh.
Searching and taking care of people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. So, um, it's kind of weird sitting in this position right now as an Indian, because
Yeah.
India never used to do these things. Uh, but yeah, recently it was required kind of thing that people
Mhm.
did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Jim, like off topic, like, like the first time I heard of CIA, was like, I think I was like 11 years old, and I read about Operation Paperclip.
Operation Paperclip. That was.
Yeah, that was in World War II, when they brought down the Nazis.
Oh, was that the where they stuffed the body with all the
um
misinformation? That was the
um
British. No, the
no, no, not that. It was like, like the von Braun and other Nazi scientists were brought
okay.
to United States, right?
Yeah.
uh, for space program and defense programs.
Okay.
So, and like Operation Paperclip was like my first exposure
Yeah,
to CIA and what intelligence can do.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that was the OSS and the MI6
Hmm.
were just brilliant. They
Yeah.
completely they had them.
Hmm. Yeah, they had them fooled, I think.
Oh, yeah. The British were masters at that. They
Hmm.
took a dead German's body and filled the
Yeah,
pockets with wrong information and
wrong
just let them float
information.
away.
Yeah, yeah.
Just yeah. It's the campaign of misinformation was
Hmm.
genius.
Wasn't there like a fake town or fake army base built with
Well,
Hollywood
yeah, they did that
producers?
in the preparation for D-Day.
Hmm.
They got like thousands of inflatable tanks, and that German recon just gobbled it up, and
Hmm.
they went
Yeah.
down on it. It was it was
Hmm.
brilliant stuff.
Right, like I think it was it I think that's kind of like biggest fuck you kind of thing, like, what you're gonna do, kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah, yeah,
misleading thing.
yeah.
it's
Exactly.
it's like it's like a quarterback just running to the base, or,
Yep.
just scoring a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
It was that kind of like audacity, kind of
Yeah.
bold move, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, I Jim, I've always felt like, like intelligence is very important, and certainly in today's world intelligence is like everything,
Yeah. Oh,
because.
absolutely. It's just arming yourself with as much information as possible before you walk into the room. I've done a lot of work where a client's like, I got a business meeting with about 10 people. I have no idea who they are. And then I would give them a write up on each person
Mhm.
just to get them a little more familiar. It's like maybe we got
Mhm.
something in common, and he would walk in and
Yeah.
you, oh, yeah, well, we went to the same school, and, you
Mhm.
know, it's arming yourself with as much information as possible before
Yeah. Yeah, because I know I almost feel like the next world war is going to be like information,
yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah.
because if you look at like Palestine and everything, the first thing that they like messed up with was internet.
Yeah.
They are like, we are going to take this one thing from you.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, because um yeah, it's information and just information, because that's why even if you look at Indian government right now, there is a policy that says if you are, let's say, an American software or Chinese software, right, you
Yeah.
need to have your servers in India,
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
so the information cannot leave India.
Yeah.
And there is a privacy law that says, if I wanted to know what Facebook has on me in terms of information,
Uh
I
huh.
could just request it and they had to give it to me from day one to till date.
That's solid. That's not a
Yeah.
bad thing.
And it's going to be like randomly audited.
Mm-hmm.
So if they are not found like compliant, it's instant ban.
Good.
And
Yeah.
that's the biggest reason, Jim, that Tesla is having like hard time getting into India,
Mm-hmm.
because
Oh,
they are
really?
like,
Okay.
yeah, because they are like, like our servers are in California and that's where we're going to keep information.
Yeah. Yeah.
And India is like, and the Indian government is
Oh,
like,
I
fuck
got
you,
you.
you cannot do that.
Yeah. They have a point.
Yeah, I think I think Jim that in future your job is going to be like more difficult.
Yeah, yeah, it's increasingly becoming more. It could be, a job could be being phased out altogether, but
Hmm.
as long as there's systems that I have access to that the general public doesn't have, I'll be all right. But
Hmm.
gotta. That's why I wrote a book.
Yeah, definitely. That's why
Get a
you wrote a
different
book,
revenue
right?
stream coming in.
Yeah. So, what's your opinion on like movies about private investigators?
Well,
Like like the Knives Out and
they have to make them
Hunting when it's.
sexy. I mean, if they,
Hmm.
I could sit in my underwear all day and do my job, and nobody wants to see that. That's disgusting. But
Hmm.
I mean, it's the hard nosed trench coat, fedora hat, uh, thing, and you gotta make it sexy.
Hmm.
It's I just critique it on how they get their information.
Hmm.
They always have like a guy on the street or this
Yeah.
supercomputer that can tackle anything. And you
Hmm.
know, hey, sometimes you can get that information. Sometimes you get like a lot of information from a bartender. But
Hmm.
it's more times than 10. It's on a database somewhere, and
Hmm.
what you're looking for is. But for things like adoption cases, everybody does that put 20 the DNA sites put me out
Hmm.
of business, but they still have people who who want to do that because there's a good population that
Hmm.
doesn't trust the DNA thing, which I
Hmm.
can
Yeah.
which I understand. But yeah, I love a good story, a good PI movie. It's fun,
Hmm.
because you spend a lot of time sitting in a car. You spend a lot of time, just
Yeah.
trying to get information one way or the other, and
Hmm.
figuring something out. And it can be fun. It can be.
Hmm.
It can also be the most frustrating thing in the world.
Hmm. So, how often do you think it's realistic that people like will stake out, like wait for someone to exit their house or,
That
you know?
happens. I walk through my city and I can tell if somebody's on a stakeout. I could
Hmm.
just see, hey, that guy's been sitting in that car for like he's a PI. He's waiting around for somebody. But it does happen, and the thing with that, one of the reasons I don't do that is because you charge a lot of money for something like that, and sometimes people don't leave their houses, or sometimes
Hmm.
they just don't come home at all. And if
Hmm.
you're outside the house for 8 hours and nothing happens,
Hmm.
and you're getting paid one way or the other, and the client doesn't see it like that because they didn't get the information. This is how it
Hmm.
works.
Yeah.
And if I do ever take a job like that, I tell them beforehand. I tell them first and foremost, like, look, if nothing comes up, and it's a good chance it doesn't. Don't
Hmm.
get angry when I hand you the check. Hand you the bill. Um, it's doing surveillance. Sometimes you're in a car and it's 0 degrees Celsius outside, and you're
Hmm.
2 o'clock in the morning in a bad neighborhood. It's like that happens.
Yeah.
And sometimes it could be 7 hours of utter boredom followed by 5 minutes of just mayhem because if they get into the car and take off and you miss them, they go through a red light, then that's it.
Yeah.
uh, I've I've done surveillance for 4 or 5 hours, and they finally get in. You get stuck behind a school bus, and
Hmm.
that's it. Or they hop on a subway, and there's nothing there's you walk out on the street with thousands of people. It's an
Hmm.
inexact science, and that's why I choose
Yeah.
to sit at my desk and look at things that find things out this way.
Hmm. Do you also find yourself sometimes, getting near to police work because of the nature of what you do?
Yeah. Well, I started with I worked for the state of New Jersey Casino Control Commission, and that's what got me into what I do now because I was doing the people who are not allowed to come into the casinos, people who are blacklisted, and I started doing the doing the background checks there, the due diligence
Hmm.
searches there as to why, and then a lot of these people are unsavory characters, and it's a private business. And they don't have to give you a reason why you're not allowed in there. But
Yeah.
yeah, along the way, I was laid off from there due to budget cuts, and then I got into the private sector, and years later they wanted to rehire me, and I turned it down, which because I'm an idiot, because I probably would have been retired by now.
Mm-hmm.
But just I did what I did, and that's what got me here. So
Got it. Just I'm just apologizing. Some idiot is just like blasting sky shots.
that's
So that's the constant like
that's so good.
booms that's coming through.
All right.
Um, yeah. So I mean, it's interesting like how you just described your career path as you know, I think simply as possible.
Yeah.
Um, but do you find yourself, let's say you are working on a case, that has also been given to another PI?
Um, I've taken up cases where they said this guy said he couldn't find it out, or this guy, this and that. I've also worked alongside other PIs. I've never never encountered the same guy working on a case
Mm-hmm.
as me, but sometimes it's this guy couldn't do it for another reason, or this guy just flat out couldn't get it, and I pride myself on you know I'll 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 figure it out or die trying.
Mm-hmm.
Some people just throw in the towel early, but I just keep on going until I come to the conclusion that one way or the other, if either it's there or it's not.
Mm-hmm. Got it. um yeah, because I would assume, right, like sometimes you'd have to work with someone else. um
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. It's
because
you have to work in tandem with people.
Mhm.
It's just sometimes it's what we recommend for clients is to if it's in the city, if you're doing surveillance, you're going to need at least four people. You need somebody in a car, you need somebody on the street, you need just in case they jump in a
Mhm.
car, you got to follow them, and you can't have somebody jump out of a car, and it's and you got to work in tandem with a lot of people. And uh I've worked with some very good people. A lot of retired law enforcement are big in this field, and
Mhm.
I work with a lot of these guys. I work with lifelong the guys who never worked in the law enforcement like me. Um, it just takes all it's good to have people from different looking at things differently. I look at things one way, this guy
Mhm.
might not look at things another way. And
Yeah.
you got to put your heads together and figure it out.
Mhm.
I worked for some retired detectives at my old company before I started my own company, and these guys were no nonsense. And me, I let people talk because just the more people talk, the more they're gonna let some information loose. But
Mhm.
a retired cop, detective, just tell them to shut the hell up and give us the information, which was an
Mhm.
equally effective way.
Yeah.
Very no nonsense.
Mhm. Because I don't know whether this is true or not. I heard once that there was this divorce case that was going on, and both the partners in that particular scenario hired a PI, and there was this moment where the both PIs were like, "Are you also working on the same thing that I'm working on?"
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I see that might happen. If the both spouses are going
Yeah.
through a divorce, they might hire one for each. They might hire
Yeah.
from the same company.
Yeah, because there is this famous meme of three Spider-Mans pointing at each other.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
And it was, I think it would be like very similar situation where they're like, oh, you too here.
yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, what's going on? Yep. I'm sure
Yeah.
that happens more often than not.
Hmm. Yeah, because and also it would be like very interesting to see how it unfolds. um because if they both like got together, because you're an author, I'm just imagining this, if they just if they both got together, do you think it would get easy or worse for their jobs?
That's a good question. I think it could go either way. You know, because if you see things from different angles, you might reach different conclusions and get two
Mm-hmm.
entirely different reports. Um, but yeah, that's a tricky situation. Um, yeah, and just your mindset from the get go. If you're out to prove something, you're going to lean towards information that's going to prove that.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you come with the information where I'm coming in blind, I have no idea what conclusions to draw. You're going to come up with drastically different conclusions. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
come out with a mindset that this is that, instead of, and both are valid, but it can lead to wildly different you know base reports.
Yeah. Do you think it could also like make each other's job very hard because there are two professionals working at the same thing?
Well, maybe, yeah. uh it depends. Like, I've worked with guys. It's like, oh well, look at the she's wearing a short skirt, she's obviously cheating on her. I know
Mm-hmm.
she's out to hot to trot, and they're like, she's just wearing a skirt, dude. It's, but if you come to that, you're gonna butt heads, and it's not a healthy environment. Or
Mm-hmm.
he could be right too, but it's just based on
Yeah.
one thing. You can't really,
Mm.
you know, um, you know, and and sometimes you just sit down and, okay, you were right on this one, I was wrong on this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I would assume like those kind of calls would just depend on like probability,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
a whole lot of word
um
of mouth I got.
mhm. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this book of yours, because
Okay.
that's what we're here to talk about.
Yep. For duty and
um
humanity. Yep.
yeah, for duty and humanity.
Yep. It's
Why
I'm sorry,
that
go ahead.
title?
Well, for duty and humanity, it's an old Three Stooges. I don't know if you're familiar with the Three Stooges. They're a big American comedy team from the 30s.
Uh-huh.
And they did like these 15-minute shorts, and they did one where it was for duty and humanity, which means we're gonna do our best to help, but we're gonna mess this thing up by we're gonna gum up the works to nobody's business.
Mm-hmm.
And they always meant well, but they couldn't get out of each other's way. I just thought it was an amusing title because the way I portray myself in this, it's loosely based on me. The way I portray myself is, I have the best of intentions, but I don't think things through, and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't meet with desired results a lot of the time. Uh, but at the end of the day, everything. My intentions are true, and I by one way or the other, the job gets done, and
Mm-hmm.
to the customer's satisfaction. Um, and along
Mm-hmm.
the way, I make some boneheaded mistakes, but I
Mm-hmm.
atone for that, and it comes to a nice conclusion. And no, I mean, people seem to enjoy it, and the stories. I came up with the narrative of where I'm mentoring a younger kid, and
Mm-hmm.
who just I just hired part time, and along the way, it's a story here, a story here, a story here, which is the stuff
Mm-hmm.
that most of it I did. And yeah, it's a, what is it? Uh, life happens.
Mm-hmm.
Life happens while you're making plans, and
Yeah.
you know if you just walk out the door and see what's going to happen day by day.
Mm-hmm.
And
So do you have plans for like next edition or next part of this
I've
book?
been working on it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a it, going to be a different. Well, yeah, it's still going to be loosely based on things that I did, but
Hmm.
I still have a lot of stories I need to pop in
Hmm.
there. But after this book came out, I got a little lazy because
Hmm.
it takes a lot out of you,
Yeah.
350 pages of trying to make it
Hmm.
coherent and and then throwing it out there, because I was staring at it and it's like I'll never know if this thing's going to be anything or not unless I do it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of trepidation, but at the end of the day,
Hmm.
I'll never know if I don't do it. So
Yeah. Is it fair to say that you would not suffer from like writer's block or paralysis because you have existing material to support what you're
yeah,
writing?
yeah, but it's a lot of where you're going to take it, where you know you come up across some roadblocks that you have to, and sometimes you just have to put it down for a week or two and come back and you know let's look at this from a different angle. Let's
Hmm.
but, yeah, I mean, it's a process, that's for sure. um, and then going through the editing process, which unfortunately there's an old edit on Amazon right now that I'm
Hmm.
still working on getting corrected. The publisher put out the wrong edition, and
Hmm.
it's still the same book, but it's
Hmm.
they didn't clean it up like they
Hmm.
said. It is what it is. If you go to like Barnes and Noble or something, you'll get the new version, or
Hmm.
Walmart. But yeah, and you got a lot of people along the way. They paint a very bright picture for you, and then nothing happens.
Hmm.
So you got to do
Yeah.
a lot on your own if you want to get any results. I've
Yes.
done,
Yes.
they do a
Definitely.
lot of podcasts, which I really enjoy doing.
Hmm.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I feel like it's very important for any person who does any creative work to
Yeah,
get on podcasts because.
it's a it's a great like medium. I mean, instead of the 5 minute radio clips or something,
Mhm.
you could really go in depth. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And here is a question that I ask every author that comes on my show. How many edits did you do on this book?
Well, I did it the first. I hand it to my wife first and foremost, and she's the one who she's the grammarian, and I put it through her, and then I redo it, and then I hand it to the publisher, and he redoes it, and then I send it back, give it back to my wife, and it went back and forth. But and until when I'm satisfied with it, I'm satisfied with it, and then I hand it to the publisher, and they were supposed, they do their thing, but yeah, there
Hmm.
was a misinformation. It yeah, there was a miscommunication as to which edit goes out, and
Hmm.
unfortunately, a mistake was made, and this
Hmm.
is another. The learning curve. This is
Yeah.
how it goes
So,
along.
so would you say like 6 edits?
I think 4 or 5. Yeah, about
Hmm.
5 edits.
Yeah, Jim, that's rookie numbers. Come on.
Yeah.
I have had authors who have made like 16 to 20
Oh,
edits.
I bet. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's I mean, this is a first timer. I'm sure this my next offering is will have at least
Hmm.
15, 16 because I'm gonna go through with a fine tooth comb because
Yeah.
I get lazy myself after going over it again and again and again and again.
Hmm.
You just get lazy about it, or you just but
Yeah.
but it's good to hand it to fresh a pair of fresh eyes.
Hmm. Yeah. Like I see authors like they're very critical of themselves when they
Yeah.
write a book, and especially in terms of grammar.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, who the fuck gives a shit about grammar?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
apart from your English teacher, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares if the
Yeah.
story is good. You know, I had a great author on. She's like a fictional writer, and
Okay.
she said, like I missed one D in the book,
Yeah.
and she was frustrated because she was like, I just want to correct that one,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
but she already had made like 20 plus edits, So
Yeah.
she was like, yeah, whatever it is,
That's what my publisher was saying. I was like, look, I don't. He goes, Jim, let me tell you about a little book, uh, uh 50 Shades of Grey. He goes, you ever read that?
Hmm.
I'm like, no, I never read it. He's like, this thing is such a piece. And he just went off, and I'm like, the grammar, but but 10 million housewives ended up buying it. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
if I could only have that problem. But yeah,
Yeah.
just the editing is, it could be mind numbing.
Hmm. Yeah, because I was listening to this a podcast where they were talking about a book that it's called as The Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Okay, I heard of that. Yeah,
And they had to for certain markets they had to censor the word fuck,
yeah.
and they had repeated it like, I think, like 300 or 400 times,
Wow.
and they had to insert like asterisk instead of the bad word. um and the publisher said, there was a stage where when I thought really like, who the fuck's gonna notice?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Even if
yeah,
I just left a couple of it, like, who would really notice this?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. This is the truth. Mostly, yeah. It's just it was such uncharted territory for me about the editing, the back and forth. But it's a learning curve, and I'll know what to do and what not to do next time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And what's your writing process like? Is there a set of things that you do before writing, or you just like start writing?
Sometimes something will just pop in my head, and I'll be like, I gotta put this down because I'm gonna forget it. Sometimes I'll do like 15, 20 pages in a day, and then I won't do anything for 2 weeks. I'd be satisfied with that, and then I go back and look at it and delete everything, and
Mm-hmm.
there's no front. As far as for what I do, it's if I could, you know, when I put out my book, it was during COVID, and it was just basically we were just locked down. And I just
Mm-hmm.
said, okay, I found myself with a lot of nothing to do, and I said, let me just crank this out now. So
Mm-hmm.
the next worldwide pandemic would be a good time for me to start another book.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
And yes, yes. I always wonder, right? Like, did you talk to other authors or other writers before starting your own, or you were just like, fuck it, and I'm going to do it on my own?
Well, I started. There's some writing groups here in Jersey City, and I sat down with them a couple of times, and I've quickly found out that it's just a room full of people just patting each other on the back as to how great it
Yeah.
was to be a writer.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found it very distasteful. And then I got in some other groups where, there's 50 to 100 people, and they're like, well, here's how it works. You know, we buy your book and give you great
Mm-hmm.
reviews. And then when my
Mm-hmm.
book comes out,
Okay.
you know, my book,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that's so hollow. And even though I'd love to sell 100 books every week,
Mm-hmm.
I need to, I want it to be honest. I want to,
Mm-hmm.
um, it, yeah, and it's just some writers are very self-important, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just very full of themselves, and I'm just not like that. And this one writers group, they're like, well, bring something, and I understand to critique some writing, but
Mm-hmm.
if I don't write poetry, I don't write, sometimes I'll write a short story here and there, but
Mm-hmm.
I just found it very self-serving and
Mm-hmm.
distasteful. I just didn't like it. I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather have somebody a friend of mine or acquaintance who just happened to read my book. I'd love to sit down and talk with them.
Mm-hmm.
If they say it was a hot garbage, then that's fine by me. As long as you bought the book. but
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
yeah, if they say it's great, then that's fine too.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like honest, feedback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say, Jim, welcome to the creative world.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's 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 like it's like there are 10 good people and like 100 others to shit on the those 10
yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's like consistent with every other creative field.
No, yeah, 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 yeah. I
Um,
had I got one professional review, and he basically tore it apart. But he didn't say it was. And at the end, he goes, "Is it? Did the book suck?" He said, "No, it wasn't. It didn't suck at all." And that's the only
mhm,
sentence that I went with. I'm like, okay,
mhm.
I can live with that. You know,
Yeah.
that's what I put in the book fair. Read the novel that
Mhm.
one critic said didn't suck. You know,
Yeah.
see,
I think I don't remember the name of the author. For his like newest book release, you know what he did? He
yeah.
just put all of his negative reviews as the
Oh yeah,
preface
yeah,
of the
yeah,
book.
yeah,
And he was like, fuck you,
yeah.
like take this.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's
And they asked him like, why did you do that? And he was like, I just wanted to let these, criticers, or whoever these people
mhm.
are, to let them know that your bad review doesn't affect me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't care. Yeah. That's
Oh,
I guess that's your
mhm.
job to say it's you know that sometimes there's a bias already before you even open it up.
Yeah. Because even for my podcast, like I have people who critique me, um
Hmm.
and I'm like, yeah, dude, like you do you, I do me, like I don't give a shit.
Yeah, yeah,
um
yeah. That's fine. We're cut
this
from
is
two
my
different
process,
cloths.
and yeah, and also it's like two different processes, you cannot
Yeah,
compare it.
yeah.
um
How long
so
you been doing this for?
I've been podcasting for a long time, I would
You're
say.
pretty polished. I've done some podcasts where they're just starting out, which is fine. But you seem pretty polished, and it makes it easier.
Yeah, yeah. My friends tell me that if you had to existing in ancient times, the only job you'd get is a storyteller.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
um
yeah, yeah.
yeah, but I've been doing it for a long time,
Good.
and I just enjoy it, so I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
whatever
yeah.
it
This
is.
is rock and roll, man. That's great.
Yeah, but the biggest thing I would say is, like I don't have any monetary benefits from this, so
Hmm.
I don't give a shit whether someone listens to this or not. Or
Yeah, yeah,
thankfully
yeah.
I have good audience. um you
That's
know
great.
and I have heard like fortunate of I've been fortunate of having good guests on.
That's
um
very important. Yeah.
yeah, for me it's that, Jim, like I don't give a shit you have 0 followers or 100 million followers
Mhm.
on Instagram or Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
I just need you to be like genuine and just open, you know
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, yeah. I get you. I get you.
because I always tell this to even new podcasters that, you see, like for example, you look at a movie, right? If the dialogues were weak, you know you could
Yeah.
watch the movie, you won't notice it because you have visuals, you have VFX, you have graphics, you have music, right?
Hmm.
But with with audio form like podcast, it's just me and you talking.
Yeah.
And if
Exactly.
you get distracted, a listener can smell that from like 100 miles away.
Yeah.
Okay, this guy's distracted now.
Hmm. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
and that's why I stay away from scripting it, or
That's
you
good.
know asking questions before even the podcast has started, because I'm like, it doesn't serve any purpose. It makes your life and my life more miserable.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Because then you'd know me, right?
Uh
And
huh.
you'd have to pretend to not know me for one hour. I'm like, that's fucking boring, like I don't want to do that.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah. So yeah, I to be honest, I have not yet read the book because I do not have the patience. I just go audiobooks.
Sure. Yeah. That
So
working on getting this an audio book.
mhm,
That's another road I haven't traveled down, but I'll
mhm.
figure that out.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question. Like, are you planning on audiobooks?
I have some feelers out about this, and I get distracted. I'll just put it down, and I'll follow up like every once in a while, but
Hmm.
it's not a huge priority right now, but it will be shortly.
Hmm. Got it. Yeah, so I definitely look forward to the audiobook
Yeah,
because first of all, I don't have
and
the
I will
patience.
notify you as soon as as soon
Uh-huh.
as that happens.
That would be awesome because I am kind of interested in reading it, but I know I absolutely lack the patience and dedication to read a book
I
at this
appreciate
point.
that. I appreciate your honesty on that. I get it.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, the audiobook, yeah, I'm going to give that a shot, definitely. I
yeah,
just have to, yeah.
because and I also have this one bad habit of like feeding the book to chat gpt and just asking it what the fuck it is.
Uh-huh.
um and that is something that I need to work on, like to get rid of it.
Hmm.
Because that's just lazy, I would admit.
Yeah.
It does not make any sense. Yeah, so I hope audiobook comes out soon,
Yeah.
um so that even my listeners have something to listen to, other other than just my
Yeah.
voice, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's after Amazon if you like, bad grammar, but other Walmart and Barnes and Noble that, it's readily available to edit on, um, satisfied with. But yeah, the audiobook is definitely the way to go. And I need to be reminded of that.
Hmm. Yeah. With that, Jim, thank you very much for being on the
Yeah.
show.
My pleasure.
I hope it was fun for you too.
It certainly
Um,
was. I appreciate you taking the time.
and also, if you would like to come back whenever your next book gets out,
Absolutely.
or your audiobook comes out, just let us know.
I
We will be
absolutely
more than
will.
happy to have you on the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly will. I'll follow up.
yeah. Jim, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And
Cheers,
to my
man.
audience, guys, this is the end of the episode. So if you have made it this far, thank you very much. Take care and stay out of the war.